plastic, leather, modules? Apart from last year's G5 that didn't quite fit in, the evolution of LG's G series has been all about what these phones are made of. This year's material of choice is glass. And if you ask me, if LG was going for adjectives like beautiful, elegant, and premium, then glass was indeed the right choice. Hi, I'm Uncle Josh, and you're watching GadgetMatch. When I first picked up the LG G6 in Barcelona last February, I liked it. Even if I knew it didn't have any standout feature to set it apart from competition, I liked it. Even went as far as posting this on social media. Of course, those were first impressions, and as the LG G6 goes on sale across the globe, it's time to answer the question, is the LG G6 a good phone, and should you buy it? Before we begin, I need to disclose that LG USA sent us this phone on the condition that we give it a fair and unbiased assessment, and over the last 2 weeks, that's exactly what we did. This is our LG G6 review. In smartphone reviews, as it is in life, it's always good to be aware of where you've been. In the case of LG, last year wasn't so great. In 2016, they bet on a new modular smartphone concept. You could snap off the bottom of the phone like this, and then attach accessories that gave the phone extra features. Unfortunately, implementation was poor, and on top of that, the G5 suffered from poor build quality. But all that is forgiven in the G6. The phone feels solid and sturdy, looks great, and is in every way premium. I wouldn't call it sexy or curvy, and it is a bit on the heftier side, but I have no issues with that. In fact, there's a certain security that comes with a heftier phone. Its rounded corners and slightly tapered edges give it some softness and better ergonomics, so it doesn't feel boxy. While our Platinum model looks like it has a metallic back, it is indeed glass. It's more obvious on the black model, but so are smudges. Two more notes while we're talking about design. If you're an LG fan, you may be slightly disappointed to hear that the G6 no longer has a removable battery, a feature that almost everyone but LG abandoned up until last year. In its place, the G6 gets water and dust resistance, which should be a must-have on any top-of-the-line phone sold in 2017. Big phone that fits in your hand. If there's one feature that LG's hype most about the G6, it's this big 5.7-inch display crammed into the body of a much smaller phone. Let me clarify, it is by no means a small phone. But let's just say there are phones like the iPhone 7 Plus which are bigger, even if they have smaller displays. That's because on the G6 there are hardly any bezels, a trend we're starting to see on high-end phones this year. First seen on the G6 is a new extra tall aspect ratio. Because the display is longer or taller, you can fit more things onto it, whether that's more text on a website, more video thumbnails on YouTube, a row of recent images on the camera app, or when you're on split screen mode. There's also now more space for when you pull up the keyboard. Of course, not all apps are optimized to take advantage of this just yet. Games, for example, have a black bar on both sides. When you're playing a game though, you can just swipe down and tap this icon so the game fills the entire screen. You can do the same when you're watching a movie, just look for this icon to switch between views. But it doesn't work if you're watching YouTube or Netflix, in which case you'll get black bars also. Whether you're reading an article, watching a video, or playing a game, the G6 has a beautiful display. The slim bezels are great, and at least for me, the rounded corners, while imperfectly curved and quite unusual, are a nice touch. The phone also supports HDR+, so when that kind of content from Netflix and Amazon Prime Video become available later this year, you'll have a phone that supports it. During my week of heavy use, the G6 lasted a good 10 hours on a single charge. That's about an average of 4.5 hours of screen-on time. The G6 has a USB-C port and supports fast charging. In our tests, the phone starts slow, but got to 100% after 1 hour and 50 minutes using the bundled charger, which is just about right for Quick Charge 3.0. However, I'm used to getting more than 50% charge after 30 minutes using other high-end phones. And if you're in the US, your G6 comes with wireless charging, which is great if you're at a Starbucks and need a quick top-up. Or if your ports are wet and the phone won't let you charge using the USB port. If you're not in the US, sorry, you don't get wireless charging, but if you're an audiophile, you might like the LG G6's Asian flavor. The Asian LG G6 has Quad DAC, a digital to analog converter that makes it so you can listen to high-res audio files without the need for separate hardware. In our unboxing video, some of you asked about sound quality. The rear-facing speakers are pretty decent and loud. I won't say they're the loudest or best-sounding speakers, but I have no complaints. When it comes to smartphone cameras, there are currently two camps. Single camera shooters like this one, and the new trendy dual camera bunch. The LG G6 belongs to the latter, although their implementation is a bit different. On the G6, the second camera is a wide-angle lens, not the usual zoom lens found on the likes of the iPhone 7 Plus. You can tap this tree icon to switch between them or just pinch to zoom in and out. When the sun's shining, photos look great. But when there's medium to low light, the G6 struggles just a bit. If I had any complaints about its camera though, it would be the measly 5-megapixel selfie camera it comes with. Either I've been spoiled by selfie cameras in the mid-range price point, or the G6 falls short. Even in daylight, when you zoom in on these selfies, you'll find lots of heavy processing. What's good about the G6 camera, as we've come to expect from its predecessors, is manual mode. So if you don't like the way auto mode looks like, you can dive in and change things like white balance or exposure. The G6 runs Android 7.0 Nougat out of the box. The interface is a slightly cleaner version of the one from last year. There's no app drawer by default, and these consistent-looking square icons are the default now as well. But you can go into settings and turn them off. There are some nice LG touches too, like being able to knock on my display to turn it on. Google Assistant is also built in. On paper, the G6 has a respectable spec sheet. There's 32 gigabytes of storage in the US and 64 gigabytes on Asian variants of the phone. Would have loved to have seen 64 gigabytes as the standard across the board. Are they saying Asians need more space because they take more selfies? Maybe. The one thing that reviewers will point out is LG's choice of the Snapdragon 821 processor from last year. While the techie in me always wants the latest and greatest hardware, in the real world and for most users, last year's top-of-the-line processor should be enough. Oh, before we forget, the home button on the back side of the phone doubles as a fingerprint sensor. You don't have to press down to unlock the phone, which is a nice touch. Unlock times are good. Last year, LG took a huge gamble on the modular smartphone. Commendable, but one that unfortunately didn't pay off. But now that they've gone back to basics, they've built their best phone ever. Measured solely on its merits, the LG G6 is without a doubt a worthy smartphone, one that deserves the GadgetMatch seal of approval. It's a phone you should definitely consider, up there with the best of 2017. But is it your GadgetMatch? Because the LG G6 doesn't exist in a bubble, it's impossible not to compare it to those phones on the list of great phones of the year to which it belongs. Let's take a look at that list. Starting with the Pixel, whose cons are its meh looks, assuming that performance was pretty even Stevens, I'd get the G6 for its premium design and water resistance, and the Pixel for its superior camera and stock Android experience. For a little bit more, you can get the Galaxy S8, perhaps the most feature-rich Android phone in the market today. It's got an iris scanner and one of the best smartphone cameras to boot. The S8 makes the G6 look boring, but not everyone likes those curves. And for those looking for a more traditional flat alternative and a cheaper price tag, then go for LG. And there's the iPhone 7. If you're an iOS user, the G6 offers no significant reason to switch, unless you're tempted by Android and want a big screen, but not the size of the iPhone 7 Plus. Remember when Samsung ditched plastic and found its groove and came up with the Galaxy S6 Edge? It took them 2 years to refine that concept and come up with the Galaxy S8, which now many consider is one of the best Android smartphones ever produced. We hope the same thing happens to LG. Now that they've gone back to basics and have built a great all-around phone, they can build on that and push innovation further. I personally can't wait to see what happens next, because if just good enough is good enough to compete with the best of them, just imagine what happens when they're pushing boundaries again. And that was our LG G6 review. For more videos like this one, make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel, like our Facebook page, and follow GadgetMatch on social media. Plus, make it a point to visit GadgetMatch.com daily. Until the next video, I'm Michael Josh. Thanks for dropping by.